Hey everyone, Emma the Vlog Lady here, and today I'm going to be talking about what I've forgotten. Today I'm going to be talking about Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me and how it pans out basically after season 3. Somebody suggested this was a good idea for a video, and I thought it was because after Twin Peaks season 3 was over, the first thing that I was inclined to do was to revisit Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me, which I did. I rewatched the movie and I also watched a fan edit which included the return of the missing pieces into the movie. Certainly, I think it's a very interesting topic, especially because season 3 was so intertwined with the movie. I'm going to play the movie in the background just so it is there to remind me of the scenes. I'm going to lower this camera a little bit. But this room is full of junk because my house is getting some work done and there's literally a Christmas tree right here. Okay, I'm going to play the movie, but it's not going to be like a 2-hour video. I'm just going to edit it down and sort of talk about the things that I think are important and which sort of are puzzling to me right now, and which I've thought since season 3 has finished. Oh. So right now I'm looking at the school bus scene, and what I'm thinking when I see this is I really wish that Chet, Desmond and Sam Stanley were part of season 3. I think that neither of their characters were diminished in any way. They really could have been linked into the story that we got in season 3, and from my personal perspective, I kind of think that Kiefer and Chris are really easy on the eye. You know, Kiefer and Chris, I'm saying it like them are personal friends, you know what I mean? Like, I'm just going for a coffee with Kiefer and Chris. Yeah, but they are really good looking guys, and I love the character of Sam Stanley as well. I think he's a real weirdo, and he like intrigues me in the movie. And I think Chet Desmond, I would have liked to have seen a wearied Chet Desmond. I think that Chet Desmond and Jeffries had a similar kind of story, and maybe Chet could have been used where Jeffries was turned into that tea kettle thing. And I definitely think there is more to Chet than meets the eye, because Gordon Cole relies on him quite a lot, and he says he has his own MO. He's a bit strange, I think, with the way he treats Sam and making him pour his coffee. I mean, he's making his own entertainment there. I think he would have been an interesting character to explore further, so I'm kind of disappointed that he's not in season 3. You know, in regards to that, at the end of season 3, we were left with that conundrum of whether Dale Cooper really managed to succeed in his mission, or did he fail? Did he change the timeline that he was supposed to change, or if he wanted to change it, did he save Laura and create a different timeline? Who knows, right? But if he did, right, and we saw the beginnings of that. We saw Pete going off fishing and the body wasn't there, so that timeline looked like it had been created. Whether there are 2 timelines now is another question, but there is definitely a timeline. It looks like there is definitely a timeline that exists where Laura wasn't killed, and in that case, and if they were to make a season 4 focusing on that timeline, that changed timeline, then they could bring back anybody they wanted. They could bring back Josie, they could bring back any of the cast that remain living who wanted to be part of it. They could have anybody who was killed off in the original series. So a lot of this stuff with like Deer Meadow and later on in Hap's Diner remind me a lot of season 3, because I think what we got in season 3 was very Lynchian in flavour, and I think I don't want to say that Frost's influence was not as identifiable, but it's kind of what I felt. I did feel like that, like it was very strongly flavoured with Lynch. So we get all these quirky characters, and we got the same in season 3. What stands out for me in season 3 with characters like this is like the Chihuahua woman and the janitor guy at the very beginning of the series. People who are on the periphery, characters that are on the edge, who don't really have a huge part to play, but they present themselves in a way that's kind of quirky and funny and odd, and which you remember when you watch the piece. actually have to say, when I watched the fan edit of the Dear Meadow stuff, that it actually was improved by the scenes that were taken out, the cut scenes. And I never liked them when I saw them separately, but when I watched the fan edit, I actually thought, wow, that feels a lot smoother. That feels sounds kind of girly, but it was kind of a hot scene. Especially watching Chet just take the sheriff down, because he was really hot in that scene, and I think it really made me care about Chet Desmond's character when I watched the fan edit, and that fight scene really sort of made the character pop for me more than it had when I just watched the movie previously. I don't know why, because I'd seen the missing pieces before that separately, but seeing it all as one really did make a difference. So I'm currently watching the Teresa Banks autopsy scene, and I heard a lot of people asking after season 3, why didn't Cooper just go back, like way back, and stop the murder of Teresa Banks? Or why didn't he even go back further than that and stop Bob from inhabiting Leland? And the only thing that I can say about that is the fact that Jeffries, the kettle Jeffries, he told Cooper that he would have to find Judy on this particular date that he was asking about or something, which is the day Laura was killed. He said he would find Judy if he went to that date. That's why I think he had to go there, and there was no other choice. He couldn't go back and change any other date in history. He couldn't go further back than that. So yeah, obviously it would have been a better choice if he could have gone way back and just stopped everything, changed everything from long ago. And I think some people actually think that the changes that Cooper made when he intercepted that timeline made the entire timeline different, because of the Odessa world. And if that is an alternative timeline, then that looks like Laura Palmer is a completely different person. So that is debatable. So I forgot to say that when the Lil scene was on, when I was just watching that, about the blue rose, you know, that was incredibly cryptic thing to live with for a long time if you're a Twin Peaks fan, and then to kind of have it explained. I mean, it was explained to some degree, I guess. It wasn't completely explained, but the origins of the name of the blue rose and what it means to the FBI. I mean, I guess we all knew that anyway, but it was confirmed, I guess, what it means, and that was pretty cool. I really like, actually, that we've been left with a different mystery now. We've been left with what the heck happened to Laura and Cooper and Judy and Sarah, and you know, there's actually so many mysteries that we've been left with. Okay, so I am watching the Carl Rod scenes in Fire Walk With Me now, and I have to say that it was really great to see Harry Dean Stanton in season 3 and to have his presence. His character was really endearing. I think in season 3 especially, he came across as being someone who you'd really want to associate with. He kind of has this grumpiness and oddness about him as well, but he seems kind of lazy and unkempt. In season 3 he really did seem like one of the stalwarts of the community and a real Twin Peaksian kind of character, and I'm so glad that he was able to take part in the season. So now I'm watching the scene with Cooper and at the FBI headquarters, and I have to say that I was kind of confused a little in season 3, because when Gordon Cole explained that Cooper knew about Judy from quite early on in the timeline, I thought that maybe Cooper, when I first heard the explanation, I thought that Cooper might know it about Judy at this particular point, and that's why he exclaims when he says to Gordon Cole, Gordon, you know, when he says, you know, he goes, Gordon, after Philip Jeffries mentions Judy, and he does this as though he is startled by the mention of Judy, as if Philip is saying something that Cooper knows about and is already investigating. But apparently that wasn't the case, because he doesn't learn about Judy until he gets to Twin Peaks and he talks to Major Briggs. So when this interaction is going on with Philip Jeffries, I guess that Cooper is just confused, is possibly instinctively reacting to something that he knows is going to happen to him in the future, perhaps. It's also an interesting conversation to have about what the heck Jeffrey is talking about when he says, who do you think this is here? Or who do you think that is there? I think they changed that for the season 3. I think they changed the wording and put in the scene from the missing pieces, if I'm not mistaken about that. But that implies that Jeffries, this Philip Jeffries, is a Philip Jeffries who knows that Cooper has become the doppelganger, or that Cooper has Bob inside him, which is one and the same, I guess. So I'm wondering, like, when did Jeffries sort of evolve into that kettle thing, and why is Philip Jeffries moving through time right now? Was he trying to get out of wherever he was trying to get out of? Was he trying to get out of the convenience store place? What exactly was he doing? You know, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. And I also am confused about Philip Jeffries' loyalties. I mean, is he working for the good side, or is he corrupt? Is right in the middle? I feel the same way about Philip Gerard. Obviously that scene in the FBI office, it kind of feels new after seeing season 3, and then you're rewatching that scene. It's like, whoa, you know, knowing everything that happens afterwards with Cooper and the doppelganger talking to Jeffries and visiting Jeffries in the convenience store and everything. It just blows my mind. So I'm watching the scene where Cooper arrives and talks to Carl Rod at the trailer park, and the car is scrolled with the writing "Let's Rock." And I know a lot of people, a lot of fans were saying, who wrote this? Was it Diane? I don't know if it was Diane. Obviously she says let's, I mean, it's her double, you know, it's her I mean, her tulpa says let's rock, right? Which implies that the real Diane might have said let's rock. Does that mean the real Diane was somehow involved also in investigating things? Okay, so I'm watching the Laura scenes now, and first of all I want to say how amazed I was when they did that, whatever they did to Cheryl Lee's face to make her look like 17 again, because I thought it was a different actress. And I mean, I still kind of, part of me thinks, well, that can't be Cheryl Lee, because I've never seen like prosthetics that good before, and I've never seen like CGI done to that extent. Maybe it was. I don't know if that has ever come out about how they did it, or if that was really Cheryl Lee, but that's what everybody is saying, and she was credited as playing Laura Palmer in that episode, so it was just amazing. It's kind of weird watching Bobby in Fire Walk with Me, knowing that he turns out to be this really upstanding guy, but you can see why, you know, he started crying when he saw the picture of Laura Palmer, because he is, you know, riveted by her in Fire Walk with Me. He is kind of obsessed with her. She almost has like a spell over Bobby, and he's completely fallen into it. So now that I've seen season 3, where Laura is seeded as an antidote to Bob, that purity, that kind of magical essence, I think it's even more noticeable when we watch Laura being Laura, when she is so troubled. She is so pure, and yet she is corrupted. Her purity is being eaten away by the forces of darkness and these cruel beings. But you can feel it, that she is golden. Okay, so I'm watching a scene with the Palmers at dinner, and I have to say that it's really difficult to imagine that Sarah Palmer was anything other than Sarah Palmer at this stage, and that she wasn't carrying this entity within her at this stage, because she comes across as someone who is tortured, someone who is, you know, using vices to distract her from the problems in her life. And I think that on some level that she does know that something is deeply wrong in her family. Sarah Palmer, personally, I think that she was taken over by the Judy figure at a later date, when Judy was trying to evade being sought by either Cooper or Jeffries or whoever was looking for Judy, Major Briggs. They were all seemingly looking for this Judy, this force of Judy. And I guess that Sarah Palmer is perhaps one of the last places you'd go, maybe. Or maybe she was drawn to Sarah Palmer as some sort of perverse thing, that she knew that Laura was a force for good and that she wanted to. It's really sad when Laura looks at the angel picture. It's funny, I remember the last time that I was watching Fire Walk With Me when I was doing a video on it, and I was saying I don't know where this place is, where the rose wallpaper is on the wall, where can it be and how does she get there, and you know, season 3 explained all of this in a way that was incredibly satisfying. I think the scenes of the convenience store in season 3 really make you examine the scene with Laura in the rose room a little more closely, I think, because we know more about that world. We know that, you know, how that long corridor that they walk through, and the woodsman, and it sends creeps right through me, you know. So Laura wakes up from this dream. She has her hands in a strange position, like she has been chained already. She does this weird double take, which where she looks over her shoulder and sees Annie. I think that the idea of time and also of consciousness and how that reacts to time is something that is more accessible now that we've seen season 3, and that, you know, Annie being there is not quite as strange as it might have seemed originally in Fire Walk With Me. Okay, so now I'm watching the scene where Bobby shoots the deputy, and Laura is completely off her face and thinks it's really funny. Bobby, you killed Mike. You know what you did, Bobby? You killed Mike. So yeah, and I think this scene is very interesting because of the fact that it never was broached that Bobby had ever done anything like this. In season 3 he just came across as a really good guy, but it was mentioned very late in the season when they replayed the scene of Laura and James. Yes, he does carry the fact, you know, he doesn't carry this weight around with him that he did this. Was he crying when he saw the picture of Laura? Was part of him crying because he knows that he did this? This is something he did when he was with Laura, the lifestyle he had with Laura. Is it something that is the impetus to make him be a good guy for the rest of his life? I think, you know, in this scene you can see remorse immediately from Bobby. He is stricken by what he's done. Emotionally he seems very damaged. I think that later on when we see him in season 1 he possibly puts up a shield to protect himself, his own sadness and his own anxiety about what he's done. So the next scene I want to address is the major scene in which we revisited in season 3 in the finale episodes 17 and 18, where Laura and James have a conversation. First of all, it struck me that when Cooper goes back to try and save Laura, that he arrives at this place where James and Laura are talking, and they talk for a while, and then they get back on the bike and drive away, and it's only after they have driven away to the second location that Cooper can lead Laura away. So how did Cooper get from one spot to the other if he was on foot, which he was? Unless he is able to sort of teleport his own body because he's traveling through time and he has that ability. I don't see how he could have physically moved from that point to the other. Anyway, nitpicky. Thing that I'm confused about. Okay, this scene plays out James and Laura having a conversation. Laura screams. She sees Cooper in the second iteration of that timeline, okay? But We are watching the first iteration of that timeline, and yet she screams. So what is she screaming at? Because after she screams, if she's seeing Cooper, then she goes on to be killed, which is kind of confounding to me, and I don't get it. I don't understand how she can be screaming by seeing Cooper if she then goes on to be killed, unless when she screams, she sees Cooper, she goes into the woods, she is taken away by Cooper, and then she vanishes, what we saw in season 3. And from that point, there are 2 distinct timelines that have to exist. The one that we watched to the end of this movie, and the one that we see in season 1 and season 2 of Twin Peaks, and the one that we've never seen, the one that Cooper creates. I mean, I guess basically that, you know, the scream is what we originally assumed it to be, as in her mind is so messed up she thinks she sees something dark. So basically, everything from this point in the movie onwards possibly didn't happen, but I think that I like to think that actually what Cooper did was branch off different timelines, so both exist at the same time, and I think that would account for a lot of things in season 3 being a little glitchy, feeling as if maybe there were 2 worlds going on. You know, I kind of think that maybe that was intentional, and that is what has happened, because Cooper was always going back. Cooper was always going to do that, and that's why things ended up as they did. Towards the end of Fire Walk with Me, we get this monkey figure. He's saying the word Judy, which is very reminiscent of season 3, how that ended with the same sort of attention paid to Judy and her importance, or its importance, if you like, because it is actually a evil, well, not an evil, a negative force. I think that's what Gordon Cole said, a negative force, which I assume affects people in negative ways, emotionally and physically. And the fact that the monkey saying this at the end of Fire Walk with Me suggests that, you know, Judy is very important and was very important in Fire Walk with Me, but that perhaps we didn't quite get it. It was too abstract, I guess, to understand who Judy was. I mean, I know Judy was supposed to be played by Joan Chen, I think, and it was supposed to be Josie's sister. Originally, that was one of the ideas, which implies that Judy had been imagined as a physical woman, you know, a physical character. However, if we are to assume that Sarah Palmer was also taken over by Judy, then Judy could have actually, in essence, been anybody. Judy could have been someone, you know, because we saw in the missing pieces, Jeffries going to the hotel and asking if Judy was staying there. So Judy could have actually inhabited anybody. I don't think that learning about who Judy or what Judy is negates that scene, or negates any ideas that have been posited previously about Judy in Fire Walk with Me, or about or in the missing pieces that we didn't get to see. Right, so I'm right on the last scene now with Laura and Cooper in the Red Room, and I know a lot of people, because I've read a lot since season 3 ended, I've read a lot of like fans' comments about this scene at the end of Fire Walk with Me, and how they think it is so much more rewarding to them than the season 3 ending, and how it is more comforting to think that Laura is in a position where she is actually at peace. My question is, does this scene exist anymore in the original timeline, or has it been obliterated by the changes that Cooper made? This certainly seems like an ending, and a definitive ending for Laura. But is it? Is this just a moment where she was being comforted by Cooper in the Black Lodge? Or is it some kind of abstract scene from a dream? We just don't know, but I think it rounds off Fire Walk with Me in a great way, even if it doesn't make as much sense now that we've seen the end of season 3. You know, when and where does this scene take place? It's difficult to organize the scene so that this one would slot in and make sense. I mean, certainly this scene of Laura in the red room at the end feels like the real Laura, because she's emotional, she has real feelings. She's not like this weird Laura that we often see in the Black Lodge, where she is seemingly speaking backwards, or she's saying cryptic, abstract things. This seems like just the real normal Laura, who has realized something about her life, her place, or what has gone before, and she's accepted it. She's able to release it, which is a kinder ending for that character than the one we saw in season 3, which honestly like messed me up good and proper. It didn't feel, even though you can, or I can, interpret it as possibly being a positive ending, it didn't feel like it. It didn't play out like that. The music, the choices, the expressions on the actors' faces, the direction that they took in the screaming and looking terrified, I mean, didn't really play out as if that was a positive ending for those characters. And I really didn't want to revisit the characters that I loved and to see them end up like that. I mean, it was so sad, especially when, you know, Cooper is kind of my hero, one of my heroes, one of my fictional heroes in life. Laura's story in Fire Walk With Me has always been so compelling to me, to see her survive what she survives. I also was really messed up. It's so dramatic. Audrey's story, basically, the way she was left. I've heard Sherilyn Fenn talk about it since and say that, you know, she was glad that her character had this moment where she could be in her own world, and she survived whatever she had gone through in life, and that's a nice way to look at it, I think. But yeah, overall, you know, when you go back and look at Fire Walk With Me after watching season 3, it's a whole different movie. It really has a different flavour to it than it did before, for me anyway. And I think, you know, season 3 really expands on everything that we see in this movie, and it's definitely worth revisiting. So it's gone really dark now, and apologies for any background noise. We are really close to the release of Mark Frost's book, The Final Dossier, and that sounds really exciting, and I think that will expand a lot on some of the things that we expected to see in season 3 but which we didn't, such as Wyndham Earle and Annie Blackburn. And I'll definitely be doing a review of the book. So thank you very much for watching today. If you have any thoughts about like revisiting Fire Walk With Me after season 3, I think a lot of people might have done this actually and watched Fire Walk With Me immediately after watching season 3, just to see how things play out now that they know, you know, a lot of more information about what was going on in Fire Walk With Me. So tell me what you think. I would love to hear everybody's thoughts on it. So my next video will be on Mark Frost's book, and after that I was thinking about doing a chat about Lost Highway and what I think about that, because I haven't talked about that one yet. And that's all really. So I keep saying because I haven't been I feel really shy actually, because I haven't done any videos for quite a while. I mean, I haven't actually rewatched season 3 yet. I'm feeling a lot better about the way it ended. I rewatched 17 and 18, and I really like the style of 17 and 18, even if I don't particularly like what happens. And it felt a lot like to me, like Lost Highway. I was bothered by the ending. You know, you can probably tell from looking at my reaction video that I was a little bit but the reason that I gradually realized that the reason that I was upset was because in Lost Highway, you know, we have a similar kind of weird abstract story going on. We don't exactly know what's happening a lot of the time. We don't know who is who, or where people are, or how, you know, what dimension they're in. And in Twin Peaks in season 3 we kind of got the same thing, except with season 3 of Twin Peaks, Lynch did it with characters that I really care about, and that's what made the difference for me when I'm watching Lost Highway, say, and you know, I'm just like watching the spectacle of it almost. I'm not like feeling on behalf of like Alice or whoever, you know. I'm trying to think of the characters' names in Lost Highway and I'm blanking, but you know what I mean. I'm not feeling things on their behalf, but I was in season 3 of Twin Peaks because I know those characters so well. I've lived with them for like 25 plus years, and it was kind of a shock to the system for them to be left like that, you know. Bereft, I guess, is how they were left. I'm really excited about the book, so please come back and see my review of that. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you. Bye.